Avenue Radio.
You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. I'm Granville Emerson along with my partner,
Ronald Pepe Bean.
And we host the show Little Line Sports right here on Rainier Avenue Radio.world, where we talk about football, basketball,
local sports,
national sports, Seahawks,
UW,
Seattle U Redhawks,
Garfield Bulldogs,
all that and more right here on Little Line Sports on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Celebrate Black History Month with Rainier Avenue Radio.world. You'll hear interviews, panel discussion, issues that impact your life on a daily basis. Celebrate Black History Month with Rainier Avenue Radio. Oh, did I mention? Every Wednesday night, live musical performances from the historic Columbia City Theater. Rainier Avenue Radio celebrates Black History Month all month long. Interviews, icons celebrating the history of Black Seattle, community leaders, community activists. In 1852, Seattle's first Black resident arrived. National viewpoints. In 1943, Harborview Hospital hired its first Black writers, Rick Dupree, Tina Marie, and me, Tony B. In 1961, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. made his first and only Seattle appearance. Did I mention every Wednesday in February, every Wednesday night, in celebration of Black History, live musical performances from the historic Columbia City Theater. I'll say it again. Every Wednesday, live musical performances from the historic Columbia City Theater in celebration of Black History Month. People you know, and some you may not. It's a celebration of Black History Month on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
This is Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Welcome to Rainier Avenue Radio. This is Afternoons with Monique, recording live in Seattle, Washington, every Thursday at 1 p.m.
Good afternoon, everyone. You're on Afternoons with Monique, and this is Rainier Avenue Radio. Today, I have the pleasure of inviting a community advocate and supporter, TRANG TU. She is a long-term member of the community, and it is, without further ado, TRANG TU. Are you there?
I am.
Good afternoon. I'm doing well, and you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure seeing you in 3D. I only had a chance to talk to you on the phone.
Yes, it's a pleasure.
Yeah, so Trang, you have been in Seattle for a while. Can you tell us a little bit about your history, where you came from? I know you came to the U.S. At 3 years old, right?
Just over 3, yes, at the end of the war with my family. And
right.
My parents, I'm the youngest of 8 children. And so our family initially settled in Texas for the first year and then moved up to settle in Olympia, or at Lacey specifically.
Right.
So I grew up there.
And I know that you are a very successful academia. So I wonder, I know that you went to Harvard for economics and urban planning. You have a master's degree in urban planning. Have you always been a good student? I have this theory that it didn't just start, at some point. It must have started a long time ago.
I don't know that I was always a good student, but I feel like I think I've been very blessed to just have always loved studying and learning, or I should say most of what I studied. Not I didn't enjoy everything I studied, but in general have enjoyed just learning both in school and just in life experiences.
Right. And well, the reason why I invite Trang on the show is because she's working on a very interesting project that has to do with social and racial inequity as it relates to the COVID-19 distribution vaccine. But before we get into that, I just want to know a little bit, share with the audience a little background, how you got into community advocacy and consulting. I know that you've been in America and you graduated from school. Start from there. What did you do first, and how did it lead you to the position where you are running TRANG Consulting?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question, Monique, and I'll try not to go on too long here, but I would say a big influence for me going all the way back to being a child and growing up was really strong values that my parents taught me, and in particular my dad, about getting involved with community and about helping others. And so, and I remember growing up in Olympia, my dad was really involved in the Vietnamese community down there, as well as in Seattle and in the Vietnamese Catholic Church as well. So I remember growing up and just going to kind of tagging along to a lot of his community meetings. My mom was involved too in various community events. So I kind of just grew up being around that. And I think it was a really big influence in just shaping me to be someone who I can't really explain it well, but have always just wanted to focus my energies. And then as I grew up, my life's work on service and on supporting community.
Right. And so first, I think you started, how long have you been living in King County? You are in King County, right?
Yes. So I'm in south of South Seattle in a little unincorporated part of King County between South Seattle and Renton. And I went away for school. And then after I came back, finished graduate school and came back. So it was 97. So I've been in Seattle area since then.
Right. Oh, I noticed the operator typed your title correct. The company's name is TRANG Consulting, not TRANG Counseling.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah.
So Dan, if you happen to be listening, if you could correct her title to TRANG Consulting, her name was Michelle too, but yeah, if you could please correct that would be great. Thank you so much. So you are listening. Good job. All right. But I noticed we both wearing red today, and there's a reason for that. So it's Lunar New Year, the year of the ox. Is today the last day of the Lunar New Year, and tomorrow is the first. So tonight would be the transition night, which is called Giao Thừa, right? Right. And in the Vietnamese community, Giao Thừa and the transition of the year is like the biggest celebration. I mean, I know you came here when you were 3, so you probably, I don't know how much you remember how people celebrate in Vietnam, but family. Yeah, can you tell us, there's a reason why I wanted you to be on, because with the community gathering and family celebrating, getting together, the issue that you are advocating right now is so important. So yeah, a little backdrop on why you're doing this.
Yes. So I in my personal situation, my mother is 90, and she was diagnosed with dementia, with Alzheimer's, 6.5 years ago now. And she had been living in California prior to that. After she was diagnosed, she moved in with me here in Seattle, and I've been her primary caregiver since then. And when the pandemic started last March, I put us in, we've quarantined since then. And I know it's been really challenging for a lot of people. So we're not alone. But some of the challenges for us have been that I largely stopped my work because I couldn't bring in outside help to take care of her. I have usually had siblings come every few months to give me a break. but they're out of state. So I needed to stop that in order to keep her safe. So the additional burden over the last year has been really challenging. And I've known from the beginning that that for her, that the end game, if you will, was going to be about being able to get a vaccine and provide and get some relief that way. So I just, follow the news like a lot of people. And in December, when the news was starting to report that vaccines were on the way, I started to look into when and how she would be able to get one, and was really alarmed and concerned at the time. And at the time, most of the conversation was national from our CDC about, who would be prioritized when. And I saw no discussion really about elders who are taken care of at home, like my mom, taking care of their family. And then I started looking at what our state was planning. At the time, state had draft plans in place, and I saw the same thing where there was just no visibility, no recognition of families taking care of seniors at home. And I know that this is something that's very common in our culture, in our communities, and other BIPOC communities and refugee and immigrant communities too. So it felt like something that made us very invisible. And then in terms of the vaccine, from what I could tell at the time, that meant that someone like my mom, who is now in advanced stages of her dementia, and the burden on me and on us, that she might potentially might have to wait until late summer or fall of this year to get her vaccine, just before the rest of the general public. And that seemed to me really, I don't even quite have words for how frustrating and unfair that felt, knowing the burdens we've had. And so I reached out to a small group initially of community friends and community leaders and mentors, and just raised this concern. And others very quickly shared that they felt the same way, that they knew the same thing about how our communities take care of our elders, and we started organizing.
Right. And what group did you reach out?
So, Monique, initially it was really just my personal circles. Actually, very initially, it was my family, my extended family, and a group of close friends who, over the last 6 years of my caregiving, have become like a support network for me personally. And we actually, some of us got involved with advocating with the CDC, advocating nationally. They were talking about vaccine priority first. And then as I turned my attention to what was happening in our state, initially I reached out to, again, just a small group of people, friends, mentors in the community here that I've worked with over the years. And we initially, this was late December, pulled together a letter to advocate with the governor. And when we circulated that, additional people in the community who wanted to support signed on, and then the group kind of grew from there.
Right. I know that you've been in Washington for a long time, and you worked as a special advisor for a mayor. Well, I'm not sure which mayor did you assist.
Yeah, so this was former Mayor Paul Schell.
Oh, wow.
Who passed away a number of years ago. This was in the late 90s. And really was, early in my career, and was, I was very fortunate to have had that experience. It was really my first experience kind of learning about government, how government works, and public policy, and getting into policy. And so it was one of several experiences that I've had that really built the foundation for informing how I come to this work of supporting community and social justice and equity.
So the group that you've been mobilizing, and I'm a member of your email distribution talking about the vaccine issues, the vaccine distribution have been very lively with participation from Asian community leaders, names that I recognize. Um, and I think there has been some progress, and I think we have a petition right now with 55 signatories that we are putting into Executive Constantine's. Is that what we're doing?
Yes. So, yeah, thank you for bringing that up. So, and I've really appreciated having you involved with the group. It's been really amazing and inspiring to see kind of this growing groundswell of involvement and support. And I should note that as the group has grown, it has involved community organizations and community leaders from different communities beyond Asian communities as well. So that's been really heartening for me. But yes, so that initial letter that we sent in late December, advocating with the governor and the State Department of Health, was endorsed by, I believe it was 80 plus organizations and 130 individual community members. Sent that off. I am one of the kind of the main requests in that letter was that elders in family care, dependent elders in family care, be prioritized. And I am glad that the Department of Health and the governor did decide when they prioritized for the group that we're currently in, they did decide to include that population. And that, as I think many of us know, is the group one. It's called Group 1B1, that is now currently open for vaccination. But I think, as you know, a lot of people have experienced, and certainly people in our advocacy group and their families and their clients have experienced, there are a lot of challenges and inequities in accessing, people actually accessing vaccines now. Like if you don't have transportation or you don't have internet access or the ability to go online and do all these signups that go really quickly, it's hard. And so that's, it's disproportionately affecting refugee and immigrant communities and elders who don't have those resources. So yes, in the past couple of weeks here, the group has been working on an additional letter, 2 letters, one to the governor and one to our King County executive, to raise many of these concerns about inequitable access to vaccines right now.
And you've been at this for a while, I believe. I think months, right?
Couple months. It's been pretty quick actually, but yes, the last couple months.
Right. Social inequities have manifested in so many different areas of our lives, and especially racial inequity. This is just one example that I see, in vaccine distribution. Your work with the community, I'm sure you encountered many situations, and you have had to push forward the community's agenda, the community's interests. So I would love to hear about that, those experiences in the past, and what you were able, and what you have seen our community of minorities been able to do toward elevating their presence and awareness, and lessen that inequity. You are on Rainier Avenue Radio, and I am Monique Lee, host of Afternoons with Monique. And today we have TRANG TU from TU Consulting on our show. Number one, because it is Lunar New Year tomorrow, and there are issues that affect our community with family and social gathering and celebration that we thought it would be important to have a conversation about it. And so I invited him. So if everyone who just joined the show, that is the premise of our show today. So back to you, Trang. I would like to, learn about your past experiences with fighting for community, leveling the playing field, which seemed impossible to do. So you are taking on an inherently, in my opinion, impossible to level problem. But I applaud your effort. I'm sorry, there's a little echo. Can you hear me well on that side?
I can hear you well.
Okay, I'm not sure where the echo come from. That never happened before. Okay, but we'll just keep pushing through. So yeah, please share with us your. Oh, maybe that would be better. I'm not sure. Okay, yeah, I don't hear the echo at this point. But yeah, please share with us your experience, your past experience with community issues that you worked on.
Okay, yeah, thanks. I'm glad the interference is better. So yeah, I think that as someone who I can't really explain it, to be honest, but just, all my life have been guided by values and a strong desire to work in service to community, whether that be in my paid jobs or my consulting, or oftentimes as a volunteer, as a community member. So it's just something, and so I've had many experiences along the way. A couple examples I could mention were one experience that was really transformative for me was right after college. I took a year and time supporting communities, refugees in a Vietnamese refugee camp in the Philippines. That was right after college, and I went for a year and worked with the community there as a volunteer. And then after Hurricane Katrina in 2005, I also paused I had just started consulting at that time. I paused it and went down to the Gulf Coast and supported communities down there to start to rebuild and recover. Again, as a volunteer. And so I think one at a personal level, just, being open, letting myself be open to following, sort of sounds cheesy, about following my heart. And, when issues come up that speak to me, that are compelling, where I feel like I need to get involved, to let myself do that. But I think at a community level, one big lesson learned over the years for me has been the importance of system change. So oftentimes we have to kind of put out the fires. Like right now, it's basically, with the pandemic, it's a crisis situation. It's an emergency, and there are critical things that have to be done now, that the community needs to fight for, like equitable vaccine access. But when I think about that, and others who have been, organizing around this, many of us know that it's kind of like we're seeing the symptoms of systems that remain inequitable. And so, along the way, I think about, okay, we're advocating for equitable access, but how did we get to this point in the first place? What was the planning? Who was doing the planning? Who was making the decisions about it? Do they really understand the needs of all communities? And how does the system need to change so that hopefully the next time there's a crisis, we are not it's not all this crazy scramble to try to fight for things that the community needs, and it feels very, very rushed and very high stress because there were not things in place in the system to begin with to prevent this sort of situation from happening.
Right. So having good system in place and processes in place is very important. There are just so much social inequity and racial inequity I've seen personally, and I'm sure you have as well. So I just want to see Can you share some of the wins that we were able to achieve in your experience with the community? Some of the victories that you were able to get from the effort. I want to feel encouraged.
No, I agree, and it's always good to have have the positive moments, right?
Right?
Because we need that in order to feel like there's the
It's
energy,
worth the
especially to
effort.
sustain over the long term. So I think a couple of things along the way that have been really heartening for me. One is with that first letter back in December, seeing the Department of Health and seeing the governor actually decide to include in this group what the way they described it as multi-generational households, which within that it includes dependent elders in home care. And knowing that the community's collective voice helped to influence and shape that decision has been really heartening to me. It's like a testament to the power of collective action and collective voice.
Right.
And then I think beyond that policy decision, as I try to follow different, I try to listen into the press conferences that the governor or the Department of Health or King County has. And I've been in some meetings. And when they put out updates or newsletters, I try to read them. And I feel like what the community's advocacy here has also been able to do is just beyond the policy is just raise awareness and visibility that, hey, there are communities that take care of our seniors at home, and that there are really important cultural values that underlie that about respecting our elders and taking care of our elders. And that may, that may be a little bit different from mainstream white culture in some cases, but that may not be well known. And so raising that awareness, I feel like in some ways has been just as important as the kind of specific policy win here.
Right. We have just a couple minutes left, and I want to make it really count. Social inequities has always, and racial inequities has always been an issue that I feel very strongly impassioned about. And it's very hard for me to talk about it because I personally experience it. And when it comes to personal pain, it is hard for me to speak about it, publicly. So I'm hoping to have that conversation on the show with people like you, people that can mobilize community effort, that can make a change, a difference in the community. I was going to ask you how, going forward, do you see that a show like mine and the community effort can, and I would say I can help that effort that you're doing, but more importantly, you should correct me if I'm wrong about this. We live in a state where I feel like, Governor Inslee and let's say and Dow Constantine, who I know both of them, they are well intentioned, and I believe they do work hard for the community, more so than other states perhaps. But when the implementation of change of distribution of resources happen, it fell short somewhere in the middle to reach the destination. How can we change that?
I think, I think this connects to what my earlier comment about, I talk about system change, but who's in systems? People are in systems, and people bring whatever, identities and experiences and understandings from their own lives, right?
Yes, right.
Experiences. And so I think that a big part of system change is having the lifting up the voices and the experiences and the needs and perspectives of all, of people of all different kinds of backgrounds. I think that's how you get, or one way how you get to a system, ideally, that works effectively for everyone, and not just kind of for what has traditionally been the dominant culture.
Right. Okay.
And I think that also means that in individual level, those of us, people who, like for me, it just comes from this work and how I come to the work. It's rooted in my personal experiences and my identity and that of my family. And even though along the way, I have privileges that I carry around now, right? From having been able to get an education, to, being able to have a home and take care of my mom by myself as I do. But it's almost like trying to use the privilege and the fortunes, the blessings that you have to support your community.
Okay. We're running out of time.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, is that the final point? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on the show today and share with us your work and your experience. Ladies and gentlemen, you're on Rainier Avenue Radio. I'm Monique Lee, your host. I just had TRANG TU, a community advocate, Harvard College graduate, and owner of TU Consulting on the show, talking about inequity and racial inequity in vaccine distribution today. It is Lunar New Year, year of the, I believe, ox tomorrow. And I wish you all a prosperous and happy and healthy year of the ox coming up. Also, Valentine's Day is 3 days away. So we're both wearing red to show our cheerfulness and happiness for the new year and Valentine's Day. We will have Kim Kan Van of Renton City Council coming on our show next week. So tune in to watch it. And tonight I'm going to be on John Yaksutake's show at 6 p.m. to talk about Vietnamese celebration of the Lunar New Year. So tune in tonight to watch me and John talk about that. Have a good day, everyone, and I will see you soon.